Welcome to this video on conducting a hypothesis test for two proportions with a summary using RGuroo. Let's begin. A restaurant chain wants to determine whether customers are more satisfied at location 2 than at location 1. Customers were surveyed and asked whether they were satisfied or not satisfied. Use a 5% significance level. Here's a summary of the results. So at location 1, 40 people were surveyed in total. 25 people out of 40 said they were satisfied. 15 people said they were unsatisfied or not satisfied. At location 2, only 29 people were surveyed. Of those, 20 said they were satisfied. 9 said they were not satisfied. So when you log into RGuroo, your screen should look something like this. You're going to come to the left to this accordion menu and select Analytics, Analysis. Then we want proportion inference, and we want two populations. So we don't have a data set, so instead what we have to do is go down to the bottom of the screen and enter the data summary. So remember, the two things that we're talking about in this problem are location 1 and location 2. So that I can keep all of my information organized and in the right spot, I'm going to type in those labels first. So remember, there were 40 people surveyed at the first location and only 29 people at the second location. 25 out of those 40 people at the first location reported being satisfied customers, and 20 of the customers at location 2 reported being satisfied. Okay. So let's go over to test of hypothesis. So now it's going to ask me to formulate my alternative hypothesis. So let's go back to our question and see if we can do that. So you can take a minute and reread this question, and as you do, you will see that what we're asked for is that is the proportion of satisfied customers at location 2 greater than that at location 1. In other words, is P2 greater than P1? So remember, in RGuroo, we don't have P2 on one side and P1 on one side. On the other side, we have P1 minus P2. So we have to do a little bit of algebra here. So I'm going to first subtract P2 from both sides. Doing that gives me 0 is greater than P1 minus P2. Now what I have to do is I have to flip this whole thing over. In other words, this stuff has to come over to the left and the 0 has to go over to the right. Notice as I flip it over, the other thing that changes is the inequality sign. So the inequality sign also changes. One way to think about that is if I said, I'm younger than you, that means that you're older than me, right? So if I say 0 is greater than this stuff, then that means that this stuff is less than 0. So now we can select P1 minus P2 is less than 0. The significance level is already there, and I want to do a large sample Z. Now I'm pretty sure that if I hit this I button, it's going to give me an error message, but let's just see what happens. Okay, so what it wants is a success label. In other words, it wants me to describe what I'm calling success. So remember, those customers that were happy were saying that they were satisfied. So we will call that success. So let's try it one more time. Okay, and again, it wants me to label my population. Okay, so the population is the customers coming into both locations. So let's just type in customers here and see if it's happy now. Okay, so it also wants a factor label for response. Okay, so the response label, you can type in anything you want. I'm just going to type in question. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, so now we have our summary here. And again, anytime I do a hypothesis test, the one value that I really always want to pull out is my p-value, and that's this value right here. So, is there sufficient evidence to support the claim that customers are more satisfied at location 2 than at location 1? So here is our p-value at 0.2889. Remember, we were asked to use a significance level or alpha of 0.05 or 5%. As you can see, our p-value is much larger than our significance level or alpha, and so we must retain the null. So we would say there's insufficient evidence to support the claim that customers are more satisfied at location 2 than at location 1.